executive enforces, judicial interprets, those are all power.
Hi, and welcome back to Mr. Raymond's Social Studies Academy, where today is part 2 of our series on the American Revolutionary War. Fought from 1775 to 1783, the American Revolutionary War was one of the longest wars in U.S. history. In a previous video, we looked at the early battles of the Revolutionary War, like Lexington and Concord, the quote-unquote shot heard round the world, and we looked at the Battle of Bunker Hill, a moral victory for the Patriots despite losing the battle, which demonstrated to the British that the colonists could put up a fight. And in our last video, we looked at the Declaration of Independence, the famous document that announced to the world our split with the British, destroying any hope of avoiding war. We also learned how George Washington had been given the role of Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, so check those videos out if you haven't already. And again, for what you need to know, many states spend a good deal of time with the American Revolutionary War, and today we will continue looking at some of the major events and battles that laid the groundwork for the colonists or Patriots to pull off this major defeat of the most powerful army in the world. And just a reminder, teachers, this PowerPoint with a variety of resources are available at Teachers Pay Teachers. Just click the link in the notes below this video or search for Mr. Raymond's Social Studies Academy at Teachers Pay Teachers. So when we looked at the Declaration of Independence and the events leading up to it, we noted that many of the colonists were still reluctant to take on the British. But after the battles of Lexington, Concord, and Bunker Hill, revolutionary spirit gripped many parts of the colonies. And as Patrick Henry said, quote, "There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat, sir, let it come." So it's important to remember what an impossible task it seemed for the colonists to defeat the mighty British Army. And in an upcoming video, we'll look closer at how they were able to accomplish it. The British had the strongest navy in the world and a well-trained army. This nation of 8 million people thought they would quickly crush the rebellion of America with its 2.5 million people. Meanwhile, the Patriots had no regular army and a weak navy. Much of the force was made up of colonial militias, made up of citizen soldiers with no fighting experience, and soldiers who signed up for short enlistments who would often go home after a few months of service. Also, as much as patriotic fervor gripped many in the colonies, there was still a good portion who didn't want to break their ties with the British. Estimates place those who remained loyal to Britain between 20 to 33%. And these were known as, quote, Loyalists or Tories. Support for Britain was strongest in the Carolinas and Georgias, but loyalties changed as the war dragged on. African Americans fought on both sides during the war. Virginia's royal governor, Lord Dunmore, promised freedom to any slave who fought for the British, and thousands did. Some of whom would leave for Canada and England and Africa after the war. African Americans also fought with the Continental Army. In fact, this would be one of the most segregated wars in U.S. history until the 1950s. As we stated in our last video, George Washington took command of the troops surrounding the city of Boston following the Battle of Bunker Hill in the summer of 1775. After Washington gained the higher ground surrounding Boston, the British, finding themselves in firing range of the Continental Army's cannons, evacuated Boston, taking many Tories with them in March of 1776. Following the initial high of kicking the British out of Boston, there were many setbacks for the Patriots. In June of 1776, the British, under General William Howe, arrived in New York with 32,000 troops. As the British arrived on New York's Long Island, the Patriots found an early martyr in the form of Nathan Hale. Disguising himself as a Dutch schoolteacher to get a closer look at the British on Long Island, Nathan Hale was captured and hanged. His story inspired anti-British feelings as rumor of his reported last words spread throughout America. Quote, "I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country." Washington, with 20,000 troops, met the much larger British army and fought bravely, but they were badly defeated by the more experienced, better trained soldiers. Washington was forced to retreat from New York to New Jersey, and his army dwindled to about 5,000 men as winter approached. Washington begged the Continental Congress for more troops, a struggle that would continue throughout the war. Meanwhile, the British settled in New York City, which they would control for the remainder of the war. As spirits sank amongst the Continentals, Washington led 2,400 troops across the Delaware River in a surprise attack on a British camp in New Jersey on Christmas night, 1776, as depicted in this famous painting. Washington's surprise attack, culminating in the battles of Trenton and Princeton, New Jersey, were fought mostly against German mercenaries, or professional soldiers. The success of these raids provided a badly needed morale booster for the troops and for the country. However, 1777 was a year of highs and lows for the Continentals. That year, the British went on the attack. They captured Philadelphia, the home of the Continental Congress, a demoralizing loss for the Patriots. To the north, the British split their troops to take control of the Hudson River and attack Patriot troops in Albany, New York, as British General John Burgoyne led troops south from Canada. General Burgoyne's army, which had been waiting for reinforcements, was met in Saratoga, New York in October of 1777. Desperate, Burgoyne attacked, but the Patriots under General Horatio Gates held firm. Surrounded and lacking reinforcements, Burgoyne was forced to surrender. The Continental Army had won an enormous victory, which would dramatically change the course of the war. But not before a long struggle. And that's where we will pick up next time as we look at Valley Forge, the war at sea, and the entrance of a very powerful European ally. But before we do, let's review. Which side had a much more powerful army, the British or the Patriots? I think you know that. It's the British. Much of the Patriots' military was made up of these citizen soldier forces, militias. Colonists who sided with the British were known as Loyalists or Tories. Where did the British attack after evacuating Boston, Long Island, and then New York City? What was the name of the Patriot spy who was hanged by the British? Nathan Hale. General Washington crossed this river in a surprise attack on Christmas Eve of 1776. The Delaware. What were these professional German soldiers called that were used by the British? Hessian Mercenaries. After New York, the British captured this major city, home of the Continental Congress, Philadelphia. The defeat of General Burgoyne at this battle would change the course of the war, Saratoga. And that's it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe. We're going to be continuing on with the American Revolutionary War. And just a reminder, teachers, that this PowerPoint with lesson plans, smartboard files, worksheets, quizzes, and additional activities are available at Teachers Pay Teachers. Just click the link in the notes below this video or go to Teachers Pay Teachers and search for Mr. Raymond's Social Studies Academy. Again, guys, thanks for watching. Keep up that good work.